thanks for allowing me to be a part of this. My name is Carrie Whitberg. I'm a current TBI. This is my third year doing it. Prior to being a TBI here in the Park Rapids area with Nicole, I was a date teacher for 20 some years. So when I moved up here, I had a job change. So we collaborate a lot together. So this is actually, part of this has been my project for my final paper. I'm currently a UNT student getting my TBI degree. I'll be graduating here in about a month and a half. Yes, I never thought I'd turn 50 and go back to school, but that's kind of what I did. So obviously as a former date teacher, this really interested me when I came to Park Rapids, and right off the bat, I have a student that's full-on Braille reader, writer, blind, and I have a deaf-blind student. And I had to coordinate all that stuff together, and PE was one of those areas. So when we're looking at the research, and I had a lot of visually impaired students throughout the years as a date teacher, and I never looked at it through a lens like this. But what we're finding out when you interview people with visual impairments and you ask them about their VIA experience, it's not very good for the most part. The student we even had when I first started with him, he was a second grader, and he told me he hated VIA. We have now turned that around, but it's for all these reasons, because they'll come into the class and they're sidelined right away, because basically we as VIA date teachers don't exactly know what to do with these kids. So this is why we're trying to present for you guys, so we can give you some hands-on stuff that you can bring right to your classes. But one of the biggest things that I saw in Park Rapids is teaching to someone that's visually impaired. It's opposite of how you would teach just about every kid. You have to be very verbal or provide that in your class. So instead of the visuals, you have to think verbal. So if you show a video, you should have the volume on and not the audio off, which, you know, a lot of VIA teachers don't use the audio because they're sharing a gym. Or you have to use your voice to do it. The research showed that the gym becomes frustrating because there are a lot of activities where that student isn't included. So that is what it's like from the standpoint of that. Today, our presentation overview is I'm the part covering the vision stuff. I think as a former date teacher, it would have really been helpful to have more extensive training on the background of visual impairments. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to include deaf-blind, because you will probably have that someday in your life. The basics of visual impairment, the teaching strategies, and we have some great activities and modifications, game ideas, and some great resources to share with you that can be right at your fingertips. So when you think of a visual impairment, it is a gamut. Not any of my students, I have 12, are the same reading with the type of vision they have. So it can be from including complete blindness, darkness, which I don't have a student like that. I have a blind student, but he has light perception, to various levels of vision that is either affected up close or far away, but it adversely affects their educational performance. So from partially sighted to total blindness. Now we included just a little, since it came up at the MIN-DAPE conference, and we do have a deaf-blind student, we had someone ask us questions about that. So when you're thinking of deaf-blind, that team of people is huge. It's a dual sensory, so your top two senses are taken away to some degree. Again, it's a spectrum. So I'll just use the student that we have. Our student that is deaf-blind has cortical visual impairment, so he's between phase 1 and phase 2 of CVI, which means he has some vision. However, he has no hearing. He had cochlear implants that malfunctioned, so with whatever hearing he did have, when that malfunctioned and they had to take them off, he lost all his hearing. So that is where he's at, but it can be You can have some hearing, some vision. You can have no hearing, some vision, or vice versa. So that is the gamut. And it usually, don't worry, you don't need to back up. Deafblind usually accompanies a lot of other disabilities with it, and so does visual impairments accompanies. So you might have a lot of your multiply impaired students probably have vision or hearing or a combination of both that is also impacting them. I think of what would have helped me, and just knowing some descriptions of visual impairment classifications, just so you as a teacher could really know what the student that you're working with is seeing, just by having some terms under your belt. So like partial sight, they can read and write using large print, magnifications, contrasts. So you would have an idea of how to teach them in your class by magnifying your stuff, using larger objects. In the case of my student that is blind, he's a Braille reader and writer, so, you know, and he does have various variations of light perception. You have a whole different, we'll talk about how we work with him, but your class has to be set up really different for him. A lot of my low vision kiddos are what's under legal blindness. Their acuity is 2200 or less. So for the most part, you would actually think those kids are pretty typical they're coming in your gym, because they're the kind of kid that don't want to tell you they have this visual impairment. But then you're wondering when you're watching them do some things, you're thinking they're kind of acting weird. And it's probably because they honestly are having visual issues in your classroom and they just don't want to tell you what the problem is, whether it's being klutzy, running into things. A lot of students that run into things are usually impacted in their visual. Travel vision is a thing. That's where a person can see about 5 to 10 feet away. So anything in that realm they can see, and then anything out of it, they're probably not going to be able to see. And I did talk about light perception. So it's really interesting. With the student I work with, he just got different glasses and he's like, I think I can see better with these glasses. So I'm always like, okay, what do you see? You know, he goes, go stand 20 feet away from me, he always tells me. He sees shadows, and he can tell if you have enough of a contrasting color. If I was dressed in all black, he couldn't differentiate between like my head, my waist, and my feet. But if you do wear enough contrasting colors, he does. We feel he can point some things out, but by no means does he actually see you and like details.
We'll kind of get into it later, but a lot of people say like lights and stuff. This student doesn't react to lights. Like if you were to light up a rim.
No, not that way. But what he will do, it's really interesting. He'll come in my room and I have a skylight that I can't control the amount of light, and some days he'll say, Wittenberg, I want the lights off. I said, they're already off. Oh, I said, and the way we have the room, the light's at the back of him, so he's not ever facing my skylight with light directly in front of him. But there are other days when it's bright out, he doesn't say, and he has glasses that are totally darkened and everything. But it's just interesting because I don't know what he's picking up, because sometimes it's with bright light and sometimes it's not. So students with visual impairments, make up less than 1% of our population in the United States. But interesting enough, the leading cause of childhood blindness is, I mentioned it with one of my kiddos, it's called cortical visual impairment. And the reason why that's the leading cause is we have so many children being born premature. So a lot of times this happens from losing oxygen either in utero or out as when you're born. So that is damaging the brain. So what CVI actually is the part of your brain that works. So my student that has CVI, I have 3 actually, their eyes are fine physically, and like if they go to their eye checks, they have normal actual vision. However, they're blind because the brain and the eyes aren't connecting. And it's really interesting, so you'll get to see a simulation of that. So when I started with these three, they all tested in what was called phase 1, which was they didn't react to any kind of visual perception at all. And now that we have the cool thing about CBI, it can get better with certain therapies, and like I use a light box therapy session every day with these kids. They're now seeing things. It's a really fun thing to see. And one of our kiddos that has CBI is our deaf-blind kiddo, so for him it's like opening up a whole new world. And then the other link before we go to the first one is just several vision conditions, which I have after we're done here. If you want to come up and check out my glassware simulation, it will feature some of these disorders, so you can get an idea of what you're seeing, what it feels like to have these. I will tell you the severe myopia ones, they really will make you dizzy and sick. So. All right, go ahead, Nicole.
What is it like to have CBI? For a child with CBI, the world can be an overwhelming, exhausting place. What they see is a swirling mass of color, motion, and light. Other people with CBI tell us they see objects and people that struggle to recognize even their own parents. CBI, or cortical cerebral vision impairment, is the leading cause of blindness in children. It affects an estimated 150,000 children in the United States alone. Every person with CBI experiences things differently. But what matters is we can help kids with CBI make sense of their world as long as we help them early. So join us. The time to help kids with CBI is now.
So I kind of want to put a face with what a CBI kid may look like.
Low vision is different.
They're usually the kiddos that are severely multiply impaired, and a lot of times CBI is being diagnosed more often, but unfortunately, in a lot of these students, I've worked hard to get these kiddos, the deaf-blind student we have, it was when I came here, and I wasn't even on his case, and then someone flagged possible vision, and I had to call doctors at the university to say, well, you said he's blind. Why? What's the diagnosis? Because he can't qualify for under vision until he has a medical. Oh, well, they just assume because the student might have so many other medical issues that it's not important to really diagnose that. It's super important because now he's getting the services that he really needs. He has an intervener even, which has made a complete difference in his life.
Prior to him getting the deaf-blind label,
He was SMI.
it was SMI. So, and we went with the deaf-blind because it better described what his two most impactful disabilities are. So.
Clear visual of a girl blowing bubbles outside. Black blur grows in the middle of the video to depict macular degeneration. Clear visual of a corgi dog panting its tongue. Black clouds start to cover the dog to depict diabetic retinopathy. A clear visual of a classroom of elementary school students starts to blacken out around borders to depict glaucoma. A clear visual of a field of daffodils starts to darken to depict blindness. Text on screen, Perkins logo, Perkins.org.
So I purposely use videos, like if I was the adaptive FIA teacher, if I'm showing a video to my student who can't see anything, you would want to use a video with audio description. So there's lots of ways you can do that. You can set your YouTube to turn it over to that. There's so many apps that can switch them over. You can create your own audio description and add it to it. But at least this way, he had a chance to be a part of the video. There's many times that if he would have been just listening to that video without the audio descriptions, he wouldn't have an idea of what macular degeneration was because it was telling him what it was and what it was doing. So keep that in mind if that ever happens. happens that you want to definitely have some audio description. So I had to learn this too the hard way, visual impairment basics. You know, right off the bat when I first came here to the Park Rapids area, I probably did everything I probably shouldn't have with that one student about, because it doesn't come natural. So if you think someone, when they have a visual impairment, they can't see you, should just recognize your voice. Just think of what they're trying to decipher. They're walking down a hall and you just say, hey Nicole, how you doing, or whatever, and there's still like all these people talking. How is that person supposed to know who you are, right? So you should always introduce, to this day, it's like, hey, I'm Wittenberg. Hey, it's Wittenberg. How you doing? You know, I always introduce myself so he knows. Now, he does not advocate that yet, like I would like him to. I would like him to pretty much, you know, when he's talking in a group of people with his friends, he does it more with adults, but it would be nice if he'd actually make his friends identify himself. Because honestly, there's lots of problems that occur from what he thinks he hears and who he hears it from, versus my famous question to him is, did you actually ask who was speaking to you? And if they were speaking to you, that's another problem. He may respond to someone that's not even talking to him. So you definitely want to identify yourself and say you're in a group. I always say if Nicole comes into my room, well, she usually introduces herself, but say the person doesn't, I always let them know, hey, so-and-so's in the room, they're coming to talk to me, whatever. It's really important. And you should really talk directly to them. And then here's the big one. He talks a lot, and I mean, he tries to control the conversation all the time. So the students just walk away because they can't get a word in edgewise. You still need to tell him you're leaving, you're taking out of the conversation, because otherwise he'll just talk to the air. So that's a good one to know, that you definitely want to let him know you're leaving the space.
All right, so before you even get into class with them, you obviously want to look at their IEP. But there may be some stuff on there you just don't understand, like cortical CVI. I don't know what it is. I'd have to look it up. So I would go to Carrie and be like, hey, tell me about this. So learn about the student's type of vision loss. Find out if the student has any other disabilities. Inquire about their previous physical education or activity experiences. Maybe they do something at home as a family, they're really active and whatever, biking or whatever. This is a big one. Leave the doors either fully open or fully closed, because they get used to that routine. And
he's ran into
our little
so
guy
many
has ran
doors.
into the gym doors.
Well, a lot of doors.
A lot of doors,
He
but
should be using his cane better, but he learned.
yeah. So, because his Phi Ed teacher usually leaves them open, well, it got really loud in the hallway, because the Mac hallway is a middle school hallway. So she shut him, and he's gone out to get a drink and just ran into the doors. So try to leave the gymnasium set up the same each way. That's hard, but like if you're doing stations, always rotate in the same direction. You know, just little things like that, which I think we mostly do, but if you're not really conscious of it, and I don't know, you get a wild hair and you're like, oh yeah, I wanted you to do it this way, I set it up backwards.
Or just give the student an opportunity to come in and explore.
Yes.
He's really good. He picks up within a minute or so if you did a complete different layout in the gym. He's really good about it. But give him an opportunity so he doesn't.
Yep. If they're going to a new gym with a new teacher, like the next year, so next year our student will be going to the middle school side, so we'll take him in there and kind of give him a tour, how it looks this year, because the teacher will still be there. And don't leave equipment or weights like in the middle of the floor. Always try and have them off to the sides. So some teaching strategies. Verbalizing instruction. This is the biggest learning curve for me. Like Carrie said, we're more like demonstrators than talkers in Phi Ed, and a lot of times in Phi Ed we've been told like talk less and do more. When I am with him, I am like really exhausted afterwards, because I have just talked so much. Narrating the videos when he's in general phy ed, because I push in once a week with him, is exhausting to me. I wish everybody would get on board, but like you feel like you're over explaining. But it's what they need. So like for example, a push-up, we would usually just get down and show or have somebody show. But like for him, I just we say, okay, lay on your stomach, toes on the floor, put your arms underneath, your hands underneath your armpits. Okay, so now you have to, your knees have to come off the ground, your stomach has to come off the ground, and everything has to come off the ground at the same time. Ready? Push your arms straight. Okay, now keep your body straight and just bend your elbows till you feel my fist. So it's really like explicit, and it feels really strange until you get used to doing it.
So something else you should understand if you get a visually impaired student in your, like they show up in kindergarten or first grade. So the research I've done that comes up all the time is they're coming into your class significantly, motor skills haven't developed yet at all. So one of the things I'm trying to push, we've talked a lot about this, as soon as you have these students, you need to get them on direct services, like at age 3. Because if they are introduced to the stuff right away, guess what? Our student has caught up considerably, and it was a case, I wasn't even here yet, you didn't get him till first grade?
So the district decided in kindergarten not to open up a re-eval and get date services on. So then I start he was in first grade, and I get wind of this kid, and I'm like, he needs date services, we need to open up an eval. So he didn't really start getting date services till December of his first grade year.
So the things like, not because he can do all these things, no, but like hopping, balancing on one, all the basic locomotor skills, he did not have walking into a first grade classroom. Just
Not
imagine
until second grade.
how difficult that it would be for a student like
And he's advanced cognitively,
Oh, yeah.
I would say. So he's very
He's
high.
above grade level.
He's above grade level, so.
Okay.
Physical guidance. Ask permission before you touch a visually impaired student, because it can be scary, it can be startling. If all of a sudden you come up behind them and you grab their arms and you're puppeteering them around.
Or come this way,
Yeah.
is a famous,
So,
They won't like
ask permission, say, and I still do at this time, I'm like, can I grab your arm and put it in the right position? And if he tells me no, then I have to use all of my directional words and try and get his arm where I need it. He's gotten better about saying yes, because he knows then it's just quicker and he doesn't like to wait. But, we should be asking first. And while you're taking them through it, so while you're manipulating their body part, you're also talking through it.
let's just use the overhand throw. So in phy ed one day, I shouldn't have laughed so hard when I heard this story. I was not there, of course. But he was outside, and he has a one-on-one vision para, and they were going to practice softball throw.
Now, we have explicitly taught the softball throw.
Inside a gym in a very specific area. So they just give them the ball, the teacher and the parent. And they step away and, they tell them to throw it. They don't tell them what's forward, what's backwards, what's sideways. And
He does this.
he gets it right into the chest of the phy ed teacher. She gets hit.
He did a rainbow throw is what I call
Yeah.
it.
And I'm thinking, well, there's a lot to be learned from that moment.
Yep, and neither one of us were there.
Yeah.
But, that was a case where his parents should have stepped in and given some more specifics.
And the phy ed teacher.
And
too.
the phy ed teacher too, so.
Because you have direction and space and time, you have to teach them that. They don't see, or they have limited vision. They don't know what's forward, sideways. To them, it's a feeling, it's emotion.
Yeah.
It's the best. You ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So tactile models, also known as hand under hand. So your hands are under theirs. Your hands are under theirs, so then if I'm teaching a little one to roll, they can feel that rolling position
And then they have.
rather than taking their hands and forcing it.
And the reason why you want to do that, because to someone that's like our deaf-blind student, he's now really exploring objects, but before that was freaky to him. So if you were controlling his hand and he's trying to pull away, that just makes it more traumatic. You want to give them the ability to kind of, do their thing and.
Yep.
and
That way they can
explore.
pull away if they don't
have
like it.
control.
Yeah, so it just allows them to feel that motion. And I'll do tactile modeling for overhand throw. I would set them up and like, okay, now feel my arm. Yeah.
I have a quick question, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Your deaf-blind student, is there communication?
So he's definitely got some cognitive issues, so we're on what's called the pre-symbolic stage. So we're using hand under hand, basic signs, like all done, more, but you're doing it, so when someone is deaf-blind, and again, he has an intervener, and that person's supposed to be, like when they come to you, they're helping you communicate, like you more than likely would have an object is how he knows you're his teacher, whether it's something, but you're doing more, and he'll grab,
Yeah.
and then he'll start doing it, because, he's really caught on, like when he likes something, because he is
Yep.
either doing it with you, or, all done, all done he usually just, because whatever he's doing, he throws it, or he's done with it,
Yeah.
but we're in the pre-symbolic stage, so we'll see where we get.
Tactile boards, so you can use them to show the layout of a new game, show the layout of the field. I think APH, which we'll get into later, has a new FIED field.
So if you ever get a student in their rear, like my kiddo that's high academic braille reader and writer, he learns this way. Like when he's reading maps and everything, it's all tactile, and he's really good at it. So he would understand, like if it's whatever game you're playing, if you gave him a tactile model or of a map, he really
And I've made
gets
them
it.
before on whiteboards with wiki sticks. I've gone to the OT, and they have wiki sticks, and so I modeled it all out. It was for stations, when he was first learning stations. But yeah, we could do it even more now.
And it doesn't have to come out of your budget. I'll talk more how you really should team up with your TBI and how they could, a lot of this equipment on the table, it comes,
Did not come out of my budget.
I have a direct link. I'll explain it later, but I have a direct link. I don't even go through the districts I work for. I go through the state, and I immediately go through American Printing House for the Blind. And I have one person that approves our stuff, and she's our state director. So the districts don't control. That's how much they want these students to get access to their education, is that they pretty much take it out of the hands of all the bureaucracy to get it. So as a day teacher, you could get a lot of stuff working with your TBI.
So the use of sound, so creating a sound source at the location of the target can be helpful.
Should we demonstrate a little bit?
Yeah.
So this is the portable sound source, and you can play it. So this is the rate. You can speed it up if you have different things you want to designate. Slow it down. The tone can change. Again, you can mean different tones can mean different things. Then you have a volume. Sorry, I'm doing it backwards.
It's okay.
It does really help.
And this is one of the ones from APH.
Yeah.
I put it on myself, like on a belt. And so he has, like, if we were running bases, then I'd run ahead of him. So then he could follow me and run bases. We put it on like a hockey goal or soccer goal so that he knew where the goal was. But I really like the option of wearing it. So, talking pedometer.
Uses all the time.
Yep.
This is,
Every Monday is pedometer Monday, so
well, that's the time. The steps. That's like, because there's none on there, is that what,
yeah,
7? Oh.
I don't know. He knows how to use
Yep.
it.
But it does talk to him. The
Yep.
only thing is it's quiet,
Mhm.
so I think I had the volume. I need my glasses on. Yeah, I think the volume is up as high as it goes.
Here it is. Oh, I don't know. He knows how. He probably actually messed around with it and set the buttons, knowing him. We haven't found a really good stopwatch option. So we did find this timer that has the ability to count up.
Well, you can set, I
Or you
just
can
played
set a
with it.
timer.
I was gonna say you can set seconds if you listen to it. So that person can hear it and set it himself. And then you can, it's got second, minutes, and hours, so you can, but then you start it.
Yeah.
So it still will get the job done, and he would know he needs to move on, or she needs to move on. And then, this is kind of the one I found in my stuff, that a FIA teacher, I don't know if you, a lot of you use orienteering anymore, but this is a talking compass. And I found out today it has a different language on it. Maybe someone can tell me, but it also has English, but you hold the button down. Now maybe someone can tell me what language this is. Yeah, I don't know. I accidentally turned it on. I had never discovered that until today, and I was like, what is wrong with it? But it is pretty cool. Ooh.
Talking dice, fitness activities, a lot of times you have a dice
Or two.
or two.
You get these from your TBI.
Yep.
My student uses this for all games.
So,
And then say he doesn't listen because he doesn't listen a lot, or he tries to cheat.
yeah.
You can hear the playback because he didn't know that at first. And then when he
Oh,
goes,
yeah.
He's not such a cheater anymore. He's learned to be a good sport. But yeah, so the talking dice are really
But that
nice.
has saved us a ton of time because prior to that, he was feeling the little dice. and
There's
it was-
tactile dice, but there's a lot, again, you have to have what you can get from your TBI. But the thing about, then the student throws them, where did they go possibly? You have to think about so many things of how to lay it out so it's in such a controlled environment. With the talking dice, it's just so easy. And even the other students like to use the talking dice, you know, if you're doing a board game or whatever. Partner activity, they always ask, can we use it too? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, it's cool. Whoops, I was trying to shut it off. All right. Oh, I got
Nope. So some of the other stuff that may sound is we have this. I don't know if you have it.
but it only works for rolling.
It only works for rolling. It's really hard and dense and heavy, and as you saw, it doesn't bounce very well. It hurts your foot if you kick it, but it is foam, but it really only is good for rolling. Your different types of bell balls. This is one that I just got from Gopher this year, and my student thinks it's the best in FIAD because it's the loudest.
I noticed you don't have the one that I got from APH for you, the foam one with the bounce.
It's probably in her closet.
So APH,
Yep.
again, you can get them from your TBI. They have these really cool foam ones that also have, it's not a bell.
It's a rattle.
It's a rattle, but completely, like they're soft and cushy,
Mhm.
and yet they make noise. I got her
Similar
one.
to the foam tennis balls you
Yeah,
would get.
that's what I was gonna say. You could
Yep.
use it for striking, you could use it for throwing,
That's why I said
catching.
it's
all-
Probably someplace in the FIAD teachers.
It's probably the one he uses the most, is
Yeah.
what I'm guessing.
Yep. We took, the FIAD teacher uses these for hockey, so we cut a hole in them and put a little rattle ball in them. So just different types, you know. These are cat toys
I was
or
gonna
dog
say,
toys.
these would work good for rolling. you know,
Um, We did juggling, so I took, this is felt and some bells, and I hot glued it for juggling or beanbag activities.
I was gonna say cornhole.
Cornhole.
You can hear it. It's, target.
Scarves this was the best idea. I came up with a scarf, is I just cut up a garbage bag, because it does make a little bit of noise. And my student sees darker objects better, so that's why I chose the black garbage bag. Anything else?
We'll
I
get
mean,
to
we
this.
have a soccer ball. I wasn't sure my student was gonna like the basketball, because to me, the bell in it makes it bounce strange, but he likes it, so
He has a chance at it.
we're gonna roll with it.
This isn't to do with sound, but I don't know, when I was a phy ed teacher, I used cards for different activities in my elementary grades. And these are a regular set of cards that I did in Braille, so I can pass them around so you can see. So what I like to do is not only make the equipment accessible to him, but you as a sighted person should know what's on this card. So I always try to make sure and have the print version, so it has the number. So it's Braille number 2 with the Braille letter H for heart. So you can kind of pass these around.
And then,
Your TBI can, or my parent can also do this. But
something else, sometimes you use dominoes, rather than them being, what is it? They're bumped out. What would you call that?
well, it's tactile.
Tactile, more like Braille, because
You
they're
can-
used to reading.
You can even take a regular set, like if you don't want to, if you, whatever, can get the money for these, you should be able to, because your TBI should get them, but you literally can take nail polish and fill in, like anything, like dice, like I told you I found all those old dice that whoever was there before me did with nail polish,
So he does better with these because he's a Braille reader as compared to the regular dominoes. It takes him a lot longer with the regular dominoes.
because those are Braille.
Yep, to figure it out.
Yep.
So just modifying, using brighter, larger, or neon taped implements. That works with a lot of students with vision impairments. Our student, not so much. For him, it's all about the contrast. Using a larger ball, lower the baskets or make the bowls larger. Tie a plastic bag around a ball to add noise. Using a softer ball, deflate a ball to slow it down, add beeper or bells. Use balloons or scarves that are light and stay in the air longer, and then give sound cues. So some of the stuff you're already using to modify for your students is just good modification for everyone.
And most of your students will be on the spectrum of visually impaired, so not completely blind or light perception only. So one technique you always want to use is you always want to bring the object in closer to them, and then that way they either can explore it, but they'll also, whatever usable vision they do have, if they're able to give you verbal feedback or you can observe, they're going to tell you when they see it. I was in a recent phy ed class in Walker, and the student was not wearing glasses at the time, which he is visually impaired, and without his glasses he really can't see. And it was really evident that day. I was really thankful I got to see him in phy ed class, because he was a preschooler and they were paired up with, I think, second graders that day. It was some kind of special day, and it was kind of cool to see a older peer working with him. But he wasn't interested at all, and they just couldn't understand, like, it's because he truly, like, we are about this far apart. He didn't see this person here. He didn't see this ball. And the minute we came a little closer, we brought it into his world of vision, suddenly he's like, oh, I got a ball! And then he actually started interacting with the partner and rolling it and stuff like that. And now he's wearing his glasses, which, thank goodness, because he's got, even with glasses, it's not so great. But, so just know that. Oh, gosh.
Yep.
You gotta get rolling, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'll just go through this quickly in case we want to talk, and I want to get to the deafblind stuff. So some running modifications. They're not going to see us when we run and we swing our arms, so we oftentimes have to teach them to swing their arms in opposition while running. So as you can see, like standing behind them, having them hold onto something and teaching them that motion of swinging your arms. Use a hockey stick, a broom, piece of PVC pipe, whatever. Next slide. So some modifications for running is white cane. They can use their own cane to walk, jog around the track. This is what my student prefers. He is not a tether kid or a guide rider kid or any of them. He puts his cane on the inside of the track where it drops off, and that's how he runs.
He gets around in the gym that way
Yep.
too. He can drop it and do the activity at a station, but his cane is
Yep.
his eyes.
Tether, so he has one end of the string, a student or the para has the other end. If you're gonna use a student, there is some training you're gonna have to do with the student. For example, the guide needs to be slightly ahead of the visually impaired. So that didn't work for our student because our student wanted to lead, and it's not meant to lead.
Whoops.
No, it's fine. So bicycling, they can do a stationary bike. Everybody can do a stationary bike. A tandem bike, which is one in front, one in back. It would be in back. You just have to teach them to balance. A side-by-side bike would be the easiest for a vision impaired person to ride, or independently. If they're just low vision, they can be independent on a traditional bike as long as they have someone there to verbally tell them, oh, here's a stop sign, we're turning right.
I've had several legally blind students back in the day when I was a day teacher that were independent bike riders in the metro, on the trails, so
Yeah.
it can be done.
Swimming, so you could use a tapper to let them know when they're getting close to the end of the pool, count strokes, swim on the side of the pool so they can make sure that they're going straight. They can kind of feel the side of the pool, or a sprinkler system, so when they get within, 10 feet, they can feel the water sprinkle on them. Another good clue would be what we learned this morning about I could see the headphones in the water, would be great for a blind student also. So a little bit about deaf-blind. So how to support them in PE and DAPE, and this is still an area we're trying to figure out, and again, it really depends on the student. So let them touch, hold, explore all equipment, okay? So they might not be using it how you want it to, they just might be in that exploration phase. Like we said, a lot of deaf-blind also have other disabilities as well. Hand under hand, so that they can pull away if they don't like it. Tactile sensations, so while I'm playing music, I'll put my cell phone on his lap so that he can feel that vibration. He likes bells around the wrists because he can feel, again, that vibration. Drum on the lap, I drummed on his lap. Different tactile balls, soft, nubby, whatever. And then I found some scented balls. That's why they're in the baggie, because they're really strong. Just know that if your hearing and your vision are decreased, your next strongest sense is smell. So I gave it to him, and he was like, he made this horrible face and threw it. So, some kids might like it, some kids don't. But that's another different sensory aspect. If they're deafblind, they should have an intervener. So an intervener is a para who's gone through extra training.
Lots of training.
Lots of training. That intervener should be the person to introduce the equipment and guide the student. That intervener is who they are the most comfortable with. They are used to their touch, their smell. It's their person when they're at school. But that doesn't mean that we as teachers are just let them do free reign.
You can definitely be hands-on. You
Yep.
just have to use the intervener to lead the way, to
Yep.
introduce you.
So
And then-
a lot of times when he's with me, I'm like, when he was younger, I was like, okay, we're gonna try this type of ball. So I would give it to her, and then she would introduce. That way he felt safer. So the intervener's main role is facilitating communication. And making sure that the intervener knows the rules and procedures to the activity, preferably ahead of time. When I was writing this, I envisioned a deafblind student that was mobile. Ours is not. And we've all worked with great paras and some not great paras, and you think they're listening to your stuff, and then we get there and they're like, what are you listening? So that's why I said making sure they know, preferably ahead of time, giving them the rules so that they're ready to really help this kiddo.
Working with them and collaborating with them
Yep.
will help you out more. It might be work on the front end, but it's worth it.
Yep.
Because if you try to backtrack, if you don't start off on the right foot, we all know what that's like. That to me is a lot more work than doing it right from the start.
So while the intervener, last little tidbit, knows the student the best, just remember you're still the teacher.
Absolutely.
You're still guiding their goals. Do you want to go through, or do you want to take questions?
Well, yeah, because are we at time? I mean, we do have a video, and you guys will get have we shared this on the?
We haven't, I can share it on the.
Yeah. So this video will show you a lot of great activities you can do in your classes, regular PE and PE, but I guess it'd probably be good for questions and then
Questions, or
just
if you want to come up and
and explore.
take pictures, or.
Anyone have any students
How
with?
long is the video?
I think it's only I think we might have time. I mean, it's
Okay.
what,
Maybe you could play, we could still walk around and look at it.
yeah, there you
Yep,
go.
we can play it.
Where do I do the volume info?
It's that one. Oh yeah, this one's not very loud.
And then hold on, let's get it.
What do you want, big?
Yep, big. I like big, let's go big. There you go.
All right. Or if you have different ideas we didn't come up with, I mean.
So you can get an actual goal ball set from your TBI. So just throwing that out there, we can check them out through our state service center.
Do they somehow get the tactile lines as well in that kit?
No, but I can tell you how you can do that quite easily.
Okay.
In our kid's case, he actually can decipher the lines in the gym, but we still make certain areas. You can use any, like floor tape, grade it up a bit. I know that some custodians are super picky, but like athletic tape works nice if you just want it, because it's got grit to it.
Yeah.
Anything. You can also get tactile paper from your TBI that you could.
So they know where to
Yep. So there's lots of ways to do it.
Obstacle courses are great for cane work. She does very nice with her cane.
She does.
Does she have an impairment in visual, or she just is doing it?
So she probably has some vision, usable vision, and they're taking it all the way just to really hone in on that.
And make her use her cane.
Okay.
Kind of like when I take the audio away and make him use Braille only on his device. So is this the one?
Oh, these are the shakers, and I think 2 of them got lost in my car.
So you can get these from your TDI, they're from APH, but you can get, we have a partner that has a matching shaker. So
It looks like maybe theirs were homemade from some sort of Pringles cans, or
but you could even do them like this.
Crystal Light. There you go. It's
Yeah.
like,
I think those are the.
I see that as being pretty darn fun.
so here you can see her. This is how she's running the cones,
bases.
The bases, yeah. Yep. Frogger, they're just using the bell balls.
They're using the lines to, whether they can see them or you create some tactile. Alright.
You wanna, so Sherry can transition.
Yep, I'm shutting her down.
One thing before we go, you wanna skip to the last one and talk about that
Why won't it? There you go.
escape.
Okay.
So, will we will share this probably on Monday, but this at the bottom are forms to evaluate and assess their functional vision in Fayette.
Probably what would help all of you the most, and I wish
Where's it at?
I would have had this knowledge when I came, is we took months to get our kiddo on track. Had I did a functional vision assessment with the DAPE and Fayette teacher to see how they use their vision with specific to PE, that probably would have been the most beneficial for the whole team to do that right from the get-go. Now I know better, and I would totally do better. You know, I wasn't even in classes yet for this, so.
Do you use this as a qualification tool on an eval?
What you could do, it could certainly, so I do a functional vision overall assessment anyway,
Yeah.
but it certainly can drive specific DAPE goal.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a huge goal driver to
It'd be
me.
good for Part B,
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
include
Yeah.
in that information.
So, yeah, you could totally use it as a Part B qualifier.
Yeah.
And the person I did not mention that also would be a good person to work with you is the orientation and mobility specialist, because they do a lot of the same types of things, and they would work with you and could tell you very specifically how to use the cane within PE. Although I kind of drove that piece right off the bat, because my kid just did not do well without the cane. He's not a partner kind of person. He doesn't, the peer thing, he doesn't trust anyone enough. I've been with him 3 years now, and maybe have this trust, so. Yeah.
Yep. You need a break? Feel free, I am gonna leave